So it's been about a week since the latest CS2 update came out on March 31st, and there was a lot of stuff to unpack in here. There was, new skins, a new case, there was changes to the active drop, like the care package drops and stuff like that. There were so many different moving parts, so many different things going on, so many different things to potentially focus on that everyone kind of, had different takeaways and different investment ideas or different buying ideas or different things they wanted to focus on coming out from this. So in this video today, I want to talk about one of the bigger changes and what I see as one of the hotter or more popular investment ideas coming out of this whole thing, and that involves the discontinued drop collections from those care packages that some people think are going to be very, very good investments over the next couple of years. But of course, before we get into that, I just want to mention my cash trading business. If you guys are looking to sell any of your CS2 items, turn them into cold hard cash, crypto, or any other payment method, definitely hit me up over on Twitter. It's going to be the first link in the description below. I like to buy pretty much anything and everything for the right price, but of course, we like to get those big deals done as well. So if you have any, knives, gloves, expensive skins, maybe you want to sell your entire inventory. Also, maybe you want to sell bulk cases. I've been buying a ton of bulk cases lately. Those are my favorite things to purchase and invest in. I would love to help you get a deal done safely, effectively, and efficiently. And by selling to me, you help support me, my channel, my content, so we can keep doing more cool stuff on this channel. With that being said, let's get right into this video today. So, what I want to talk about, part of this new CS2 update, this is the big thing. This is what I've seen as one of the biggest takeaways from people. Obviously, like I said, the new train collection, it's awesome. The fever case is very sick. People are really excited about those new knives. The limited edition item, whatever. There's a bunch of different things. But this line right here, removed 4 weapon collections from the weekly care package drop list: Bank, Italy, Lake, and the original train collection. Now again, we got those 3 new active duty collections. I don't remember the names of all of them right off the bat. I know it's like Radiant, Boreal, and one other one. So we got those new ones, and at the time I hadn't read this update yet. So when that first patch came out, I was talking about in the video, I get that there's these new active duty collections, but that means the old ones are going to be discontinued, or those just ones going out on top of it or whatever. But it does obviously very, very clearly say that Bank, Italy, Lake, and Train are being removed. Now, again, this led a lot of people to having very, very similar ideas. This guy, the day that this update came out, he said fillers are about to go crazy. And obviously, the idea here is that these skins are now discontinued. They are now not actively going to be dropping. And these skins are all very, very, very cheap, but they've been kept down because they're dropping, however many thousands or tens of thousands or 100,000s or whatever every single week to everyone playing CS. They're getting these 3-cent skins, but the idea here is, obviously, now that they are no longer dropping, there isn't going to be this supply that keeps coming in, and randomly over time, skins are, lost to accounts becoming inactive or people getting banned or whatever. But also the big thing here is a bunch of very, very cheap skins or a bunch of very common skins or whatever are really great and really insane trade-up fodder and trade-up filler. So these skins that were previously getting dropped so much and being used to trade up so much, still the supply was increasing over time. But all of a sudden, if these skins are no longer dropping, but they're continued to be used in trade-ups. And again, the big thing about trade-ups is you might be using 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these skins at once. Not necessarily all of these skins or any of these skins or whatever, but you're using big amounts of them at once and you're wiping them out forever. So, hey, these aren't dropping anymore, and a bunch of them are going to be still continue being used for trade-ups. There's a lot of people who think over the next couple of years, these things could increase. Now, there's definitely people on the other side as well, and I'm not totally sure that I'm convinced of these as an investment, because some of my issues with this as an investment is, I would say, there are millions of these skins out there. Obviously, these skins have been active drops for so long, and they've been active drops through some of the most popular and most played times in CS history. These things were active drops during the CS2 peak in 2023. These things have been active drops very recently when we've hit all-time player base numbers. Like, there's been so many of these dropping, and also to get a meaningful move on these, some of these skins are 3 cents, 10 cents, 5 cents, 7 cents, 8 cents, whatever. To get a meaningful amount invested into them, you're going to have to buy so many, and then you're also going to have to buy storage units and factor in those costs, and it's really a pain to move all this stuff around and buy and sell it and keep it organized and all that stuff for something that might increase over time or might not or whatever. So I think if you are someone who has any kind of meaningful amount of money in the markets, I'm even talking like thousands of dollars, that this probably starts to become not really worth your time or not really that great of amount of, risk to reward or risk to effort ratio. But if you're somebody with a very, very small or budget account, and I know I have people like that all the time. People are like, oh, I have $5, $10, $20, $100. What should I do? Maybe this starts to become a more attractive investment opportunity for you. Maybe this starts to become more worth your time. But even then, I would still argue, cases are so cheap and are such great investments, you'd probably still be better off going with with cases, I don't know. And then the other major negative side I see from other people talking about this is, like I said, there's not going to be enough demand for these skins, and there's just so much supply out there that even if people do start trading up with them or whatever, we might see a little bit of a bump, but there's just going to be too many of these skins being into. There's too many skins of these out there dropped. And also one thing I would potentially be worried about, just I haven't really seen other people talking about this, and I don't really know for sure, but one thing I'd be worried about is if and when these skins do start to increase in price, that isn't that going to make them a lot less attractive as trade-ups? And could we see, trade-ups really start to fall off a cliff as these prices start to increase and then maybe kind of hit some plateau where people aren't really interested in them anymore? There's not going to be a ton of genuine demand for them in terms of like them being good-looking skins or them being play skins or anything like that either. So I don't know. I'm not as convinced about this as a lot of other people are, but again, there were a lot of people that first day, posting about this. Guy said, Petrie said locked in, where he bought apparently 150 Op Safari meshes, which is part of the late collection. This guy says nice pair of stickers, where again, yeah, he's saying, hey, this is an overhyped investment. There's too much supply out there. This is going to be bad. And Petrie says potentially, but it's a fun gamble and I got in early enough, so really the worst I can do is break even. And that's a good thing. Paris, you could do a lot worse and break even, 25 cents. There's a lot of room to fall. But again, these skins, if they're 3 cents, 5 cents, 7 cents, 10 cents, whatever, you don't have as much room to run or fall. And I do genuinely believe that at the very least, these will see some kind of minimal increase in gain over time. But I don't know if the opportunity cost is going to be worth using these as your investment versus other things. And I don't know if they're ever going to see like a big explosion in price like I think a lot of people are hoping for or wanting or whatever. Flary tweeted out 4 of the 6 filler collections have been removed. The only industrial fillers from Train Collection have already 2x in price. Trade-ups are changing. Only Safe House and Dust 2 remain droppable fillers. Now, again, this is another thing that I think is kind of bad for this investment idea is we do still have some of those other droppable fillers. So, again, people are still going to have other options for trade-ups and stuff like that. It's not like these are the only trade-up options in the whole game or the only cheap or good trade-up options. So that could, hamper or damper this as a little bit of an investment. But one thing that is good for this as an investment and a good argument for investing in stuff like this, Brongo tweeted this out. He said, it seemed like there's an insane amount of skins packed into the active drop collections. This is the Radiant collection. You can see how many light blues, how many, blues, how many whites or grays or whatever. There's just so many skins in each collection. These collections are huge, especially at the bottom in the grays and the light blues, where he says, outside of there only being one pink, these will be much worse filler collections due to having so many outputs. Obviously, in trade-ups, you don't want a bunch of different outputs. That's going to lower your, possibilities of getting the stuff they actually want unless you want the stuff from this collection. So that actually means that this new active stuff that we're getting, it's going to be the new stuff that's dropped in the millions or whatever, and potentially being used for trade-ups, isn't going to be as good for trade-ups. So that might still give some overall genuine demand for the old stuff that is actually a little bit better for trade-ups, which would make those better investments over time. I'm not really sure. But again, when we do start to take a look at some of these skins, again, overall, I don't really think these skins in these collections are that good looking. I don't really think they're that attractive or going to be used as, like I said, play skins or skins that are going to have genuine demand or anything like that. But if we do take a look at what's been going on and stuff like this, we have the P250 Franklin, we have the Emerald Pinstripe, people aren't going to be necessarily trading up in these collections themselves because that's just not what they are. They're going to be used as fillers to do other trade-ups and stuff like that, which again is a bad thing. If there was a bunch of cool skins in here that people were going to be continually trading up for, like we see in Discontinued collection and stuff like that, this would maybe be better and I would be more interested. But these are not going to have any genuine demand on their own. But we do have, at the bottom end, we have stuff like the Forest DD Pat. This is in the bank collection, where for the longest time, it was just always selling for 3 cents. It was kind of, not really selling that often, but when it did, it was 3 cents. But you can see here, what's happened more recently is every once in a while, it's starting to sell for 4 cents, starting to sell for 5 cents. Right now, the lowest listing is 5 cents. So even the stuff at the very bottom, in terms of the bank collection, the MP7 Forest DD Pat, we're starting to see a little bit of an increase already. I don't know if that'll be sustained. P250 Franklin, this thing was about right around $2 before this update, and it spiked up almost double, like those very first couple days, all the way up to $4.80, but it has started coming down, and it doesn't really look like it's found a bottom yet. It is still on a kind of downward trajectory, down to about $2.85. So far, it's still up 85 cents. That's still good. It's seen almost a 45% increase since this update came out, but it looks like it's still dropping, still kind of coming down. Maybe some of the hype and excitement is dying on this because, again, this doesn't necessarily seem like a quick flip. This seems like something you're going to have to hold for the long term because to eat into the supply and the amounts, the sheer amounts we have of all these skins, it's going to take time. I don't think this is going to be anything quick. So when these doubled, in a day, like, hey, if you had these, I would have been selling. I would have been trying to get out. But again, prices are still up, but it seems like prices are still cooling off and still coming down. Here also we have the AK-47 Emerald Pinstripe from the bank collection. This thing went from about right around $6, went up to $7.76. It's come down a little bit. It's still holding, like I said, up above where it was. These prices are still up, but it's not like, they've held those insane prices I saw from the first day, but it is still up. So if you had this stuff before, you were able to make money, but if you bought this stuff after the update came out, you're probably down a little bit, and you might be end up getting stuck in an investment like this. We do have also here, the Italy collection. We do at the top of this one have the Op Pit Viper, which I think is a little bit interesting because it's at least, like an Op skin. And the Op Pit Viper in minimal wear, this thing was like 88 cents before. It went up to about $1.05. It's down to about 95 cents right now. So still up. Again, same type of situation. We have the Glock Candy Apple. Same thing here. Was about 82 cents up to $1.04. Now down to 89. So almost back to where it was before the update for that one. We have the Op Safari Mesh from the Lake collection. Again, this collection doesn't really have that crazy of skins, but again, at least it's an Op skin. It's a cheap op skin, and this is in field tested. This thing was like 8 cents. It went up to like 9 cents. So not really any crazy movement there, but in terms of the factory new, this is the crazier graph because it just seems like there's not really that many of these available. About $1.56 up to $5.74. But again, another graph where things are just kind of coming straight down, so it don't really seem like they found a bottom. So again, a couple days after this update came out, these things all spiked in price, but I think some of the hype, some of the excitement is dying a little bit, and the prices are coming down. Probably people just wanting to sell their stuff for, double, triple the money. I don't know. So these are down to about $2.58. I don't know. And then also the last collection is the Train collection, where we have the Tech 9 Red Quartz at the top of that, factory new. This thing's seen a nice little bump, 13 cents up to 52, but again, all the way back down to like 20 cents recently, where the lowest one is 21 cents right now. Factory new Safari Mesh got nuked. The guy saying there's only 61 of these available on the Steam market. So again, these were all getting bought up. A ton of people were investing in this. This is one of the most popular and investment ideas that I've seen in some time. I saw a lot of people rushing to buy stuff like this. I had a couple random, I have like random skins that I get from drops and stuff that sits on websites because people don't really buy it. So I had a ton of like filler skins listed for like 3 cents, and literally once this update came out, all of my stuff sold instantly for 3 cents. And then I went to look on like Float and Steam and stuff like that, and a lot of it's still selling for 3 cents. But people were going crazy right when this update dropped. They were trying to buy anything and everything they could. And like I said, prices have gone up a little bit, but I don't really think they've gone up as much as people would have hoped or expected, because I know people love to like try to make the quick flips and try to make the quick money and stuff like that. But in the modern CS2 investing world, it definitely seems like a lot of the stuff is more kind of long-term holds and finding yourself with a good fundamentals. So obviously I like some of the fundamentals here. I like the fact that a lot of these skins are going to just have decreasing supplies over time, but I don't really love the idea of them being so disgustingly cheap that I have to use so much time, effort, and inventory space to move them around. And I don't like how much effort it's going to take to invest any meaningful amount of money into them. And I also don't like how much time it's going to take to eat into the supply. I think the supply might just be a little bit too big here, and the fundamentals don't seem good enough for me to invest in something like this rather than cases or some of the discontinued collections that have lower supplies and stuff like that. So I don't know. This seems like an interesting idea. I saw a lot of people doing this. Prices are up, but I don't think I'm necessarily sold. So I'm going to be passing on this. I'm going to stay away from this right now, but maybe you want to take a chance. Maybe this seems like the investment idea for you. I don't know. This new update definitely impacted things, and people are definitely taking a chance on the discontinued collections that used to be the active drops. So I don't know. Let's wait and see what happens. It's definitely a situation we're going to monitor, for the next couple of months, next couple of years or so, whatever. We'll give updates on this for sure. But pretty much it for this video today, guys. Hopefully catch you in the next one. Until then, peace.